Last night, while reading about the English countryside, an elite group of statisticians, Mavs fans, and Chipotle enthusiasts fought and toiled and burned the midnight oil to deliver the best segment in all of sports media. It's an honor and a privilege to present a special OTA version of Nick's Tears.
Yeah, because we're down to double digits before the first NFL game of the season. Ooh. 99 days away, so a fresh version of Tears. Also because in the NBA, we're down to just 2 or 3 teams. So the NBA Tears weren't really going to work. All right, bottom of the tiers. On the clock and on Zillow, the Panthers, the Raiders, and the Giants. We know that they are already scouting next year's draft, and for a lot of the people in those organizations, they are scouting real estate agents. Next, year 5 of the rebuild. So all 3 of these teams are like, rebuild starts now. We drafted our quarterback. This is judge us from right now. But you have been rebuilding for the last half decade, all 3 of these teams. Well, so you maybe should be further along. They had to tear down the rebuild to start a new rebuild. In the Broncos' case, they're 3 rebuilds in. The Patriots, they're just 2 rebuilds in. The Washington, I'm not really even sure. Next, combine the rosters. All right, so hear me out here, because I'm dead serious. 32 teams doesn't really make sense. It's 30 in every other sport. AFC's got too many good teams. NFC, not enough good ones. So let's just remove the Browns entirely. Those 2 teams, let's move them all. Yeah, just put them all together in one.
That's a take.
Bake Show can be the quarterback along with Mike Evans and Tristan Wirfs. Chris Olave, Marshawn Lattimore, and Alvin Kamara can come together. The Browns send over Myles Garrett, the whole offensive line. Maybe
you don't have to convince. Yes, that would work if you combine 3 teams. That would work.
Pretty good. But as is,
those aren't the only 3 teams you can
No, I'm just telling. No, but those 3 teams, I don't think you would create some juggernaut. I just think it would be a good team.
That's the problem. It would just be an okay
That's
team.
why I said combine the rosters. That was the whole point of the bit.
We kept going.
But, I was crescendoing to something. The whole thing was going to be, and then if you did that, you maybe could lose in the wild card round. But instead, you jumped me. Sleeper potential? Question mark. All right, so last year, everybody was cowardly. They're like, you know what my sleeper is? The Lions, who won 8 in a row to finish the year. That's not a sleeper. A sleeper is a team that has no expectations, that no one believes in. All 4 of these teams have no expectations, very little belief, but just enough, maybe. Whether it's because of Kyler and Anthony Richardson, whether it's the Titans, who seem to be very aggressive in free agency, Seattle, maybe Mike McDonald brings what he did in Baltimore over there, and Geno gets back to where he was 2 years ago. One of those teams, likely sleeper team. Offseason 2 weird tier. All right, so Minnesota, there was a report this week. You were trying to trade up for Malik Neighbors, and then you were going to trade the best player on your team, who you got rid of Kirk Cousins because you needed to pay Justin Jefferson. The Steelers, Russell Wilson was announced as starting quarterback, and then Justin Fields like, guys, it's me, actually. I'm going to fight for it. Falcons, we know how weird it is. Meanwhile, in New York, you have an offensive coordinator who's actually just a darts player. You have a head coach who has the job because he's great on defense, but he is now coaching the offense. And you have a quarterback who wants to hold the next State of the Union address on Pat McAfee's show. Offseason 2 weird. Next. QB leap year. All right, a lot of pressure on these 2 guys. I think it's, maybe a little unfair for at least one of them, but this year, these quarterbacks, if they don't take a significant leap, either statistically or from a winning perspective, there are going to be real criticism surrounding either or both of them. Yeah, I think so. I think for the Chargers, it's like you can't blame the coach anymore. You have Harbaugh. For Trevor, at year 4, you need to be able to overcome circumstances.
Hold on to the ball.
Well, listen, man, it rains. It's hard. Next, pretend SBOB tier. All of these teams would have fans meeting them at the airport celebrating if they got to a Super Bowl and lost.
Yes.
All of those teams but one, Buffalo's maybe, would get extensions for the coach if they made the conference championship game. And yet they all pretend like they are Super Bowl or bust. No, you're not. You're just good season. Good season or bust is what you actually are for all 6 of those teams. There can only be one tier. Guys, we're not going to have 3 great young quarterbacks at once. We're going to have 3 good ones. There's only going to be one that distinguishes himself as the great of the kind of post-Mahomes Allen era of quarterbacks. And right now, Caleb's going to fight for it. Jordan Love, who's a little older, but his experience-wise is not. And CJ's going to fight for it. I like all three of their teams. I like all three of their rosters. But there's only going to be one quarterback that distinguished himself, not maybe to the level Mahomes did, but similarly over guys of his era. Actually, S-Bob, self-explanatory. All four of these teams are truly Super Bowl or bust. The Rams, for the simple reason of you don't know how much longer Matt Stafford's going to play. So as long as McVay is there and Stafford is there, any year that does not end in the Super Bowl, because you already won one recently, is a disappointment. The Ravens been knocking on the door. The Niners been knocking on the door, been let into the room. They kicked their feet up and then kicked out unceremoniously.
I get sandwich?
And right, exactly. No. And we know what the deal is with the Bengals because they once upon a time won a game in overtime people care a lot about. And then finally, above reproach.
Oh, wow.
I mean, everyone, there's nothing even to say anymore. It is honestly hurt some of sports commentary that every NFL conversation has this on the front end or the back end of it. Aside from the Chiefs, other than the Chiefs, second best quarterback, the biggest contender to play the Chiefs. They are atop the tiers as they have been consistently the last 5 years. Chris Broussard, your thoughts on the committee's tiers?
Well, the top is great, above reproach. I agree with you on that. I'm surprised. This isn't my main thing. I'm surprised you have Baker and the Buccaneers so low.
I don't love the roster. I like Baker, but it feels like they got old and they, overachieved a bit last year. I just don't love the roster.
Well, I think your Bears are too high. All right. They're not. I don't think they're better. Just to name a few NFC teams, the Packers, the Lions, the Eagles, who I do think are legitimate. That's the one team their fans will not cheer if they get to the Super Bowl and lose because they were just there a couple years ago. But the Bears and Nick, I'm not going to make too much out of it. But I've been one saying, give Caleb some time. He's going to go through some growing things. There's a lot of reports out there that at OTAs, he only completed 3 passes and 7-on-7. He's holding the ball too much. He wasn't efficient in the red zone. I'm not saying this means he's not going to be good. No, there were several reports. I'm not saying he's not going to be good, but I'm saying growing pains. That's a good point. I don't think he's stepping in like C.J. Stroud and lighting the league on fire. I think he's going to grow, and that's why I don't think they're ready to be at that level yet.
So, listen, your point about C.J. Stroud I think is fair. The part of the team ranking there is the more difficulty of schedule and conference the Texans are going to have to deal with. The Packers were not that much better than the Bears last year. One team won 9 games, one team won 7. Now, the Packers obviously looked great in the postseason, but over the width and breadth of the regular season, they were in a similar boat. So I just don't think the Bears and Packers are that far apart from each other.
I'll be totally honest with you. I had my thesis statement as Cardinals sleeper team, and Katana came into my shared office and said, actually, the name of the tier is sleeper potential. So I said, you have to upgrade the Cardinals to Frisky team. Here's why. I'm back on the Kyler train. Kyler's healthy.
Really?
Last 3 games, I asked Josh to dig deep into the Kyler research. He said, here's the best we could do. Kyler's last 3 games, which he had a completion percentage about 71. He threw for 270 yards. 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. Hey, I'll take it. And I know what you're going to say, bro. What about the video games? Did you find out what Call of Duty is? Because then he takes the day off. Not true. According to Michael Carter, who was on Bickley and Marotta, excuse me if I pronounced that incorrectly, on AZ Sports Radio, said this. The more I got to know him, I don't think he ever leaves the facility. It's a small font.
Yeah, because he can play on the 96-foot jumbo.
Carter says he tried to beat Kyler in last week 2 hours before a team meeting. Guess what? That Lambo was already here. Hello, just love it. I'm driving a Lambo early. Beat that traffic, really air that thing out. And then finally, what's the deal with Jonathan Gannon? Do we believe that the Eagles defense suffered because he was the mastermind behind it? Okay, then he went to Arizona and the defense was still no good. So maybe it's like they drafted 6 defensive players. So if he's the mastermind, you got 6 new guys on defense, and you have Marvin Harrison Jr. on offense, so all of a sudden, Cardinals.
So I don't hate it either, Wildes. I do think Jonathan Gannon is sharp, and I think he's very good, obviously, defensively. I don't think they have 2 above average proven defensive players. I just think they don't have the personnel there yet. I think Kyler has upside. I love Marvin Harrison. Paris Johnson played well for them. I think they have a sharp GM. I just think that defense they're going to be relying on a ton of young guys to make significant impacts.
Also beat the Cowboys.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.